So, good afternoon. Okay, I like to share IPv6 transition experience from CERNET, China Education and Research Network, and also I like give a little bit information on what China is going on overall. So, actually, this is from CNIC's report, the internet population. And currently, mainland China is the country with the largest internet population. And the currently is about 500 million internet users. And also from earlier talk, you can see only 0.3, 0.4% of the IPv4 address per current user. And the internet penetration is less than 40%, compared with the developed countries like North America, Europe countries, it's more than 70%. So there is still a big space for growing. And definitely there is no such amount of IPv4 address left for China. So that's the situation. And it's not too bad. China, for the absolute value of the IPv4 address China holds is the second. The first one is United States, and the second is China. However, like the population. So IPv4 address per head is very limited. And in China, actually, China Telecom and the China Unicom are using public IPv4 address currently, and the China Mobile for the 3G TD as CDMA service using private address and the big nets. And even in China Mobile, because there are only limited number of number 10 address base, so actually China Mobile segment the number 10 address into different regions. That make the communication cross regions is really a tough job. And currently, because of the IPv4 address depletion problem, and the China Telecom and the China Unicom are thinking to transit from public IPv4 address to private IPv4 address. If you recall the history of China Telecom, in the very early stage of the internet development in mainland China, China Telecom used to have two backbones. One is called 163, which using public IPv4 address. Another is called 169, that's the number 10 address. And after a 2 or 3 experience, by that time, that's the middle of 1990s, China Telecom decided to switch from or close down the private IPv4 address network 169 and use public IPv4 address because of the pain of NET. However, they are facing the same problem, because, as I mentioned, no more IPv4 address left. So they are thinking to switch from public IPv4 address to private IPv4 address. There are lots of debate, but that seems will happen. And the people really like IPv6 are thinking that's a big mistake. However, they have to solve their problems. I will talk to that later. And the IPv6 address, and last year, because of the initiative from the government, there are a big jump of the IPv6 address hold in China. Actually, a couple days ago, China Unicom get another two big blocks from APNIC that make China is, I believe, is the number 4th globally as the largest IPv6 holders. Another thing is the internet user distribution in China, actually student is the largest internet population in mainland China. It's about 30%. And because I mention this, because I am working for CERNET, China Education Research Network, we believe that will really make a difference. Again, like the news from APNIC, and APNIC already ran out of the IPv4 address pool. That's the final stage, or stage 3. So currently, actually, if you are a new APNIC member, then you can get a /22. That's 4 Class C equivalent address, one time, no more. And for CERNET, because we are already the APNIC members, so no single IPv4 address can be obtained from APNIC at this stage. So that's really something we need to work out. Either try to buy IPv4 address or move to IPv6. Another thing is quite interesting. Like mainland China, we need a lot of IPv4 IP address for the growth. However, there is no successful examples for the transition from V4 to V6. And it seems like North America especially have another 2 years in order to run into this situation. So like the ISPs or academic networks in mainland China have find our own way, move forward, or solve our own problems. We cannot really learn from Europe or United States. In the old days, like when we developed internet, TCP/IP network, we learned a lot from United States, from Europe, and also from Hong Kong. Like I have lots of friends from HARNET. And when we built CERNET, we learned a lot from HARNET. However, another thing is quite hesitating to move into IPv6 because, like we know, internet routing, BGP, peering, all those kind of things, they are independent autonomous systems. And if we take a look of the number of autonomous systems in IPv4 routing table and compare with the number of autonomous systems in IPv6, actually that's a big shame, because currently there are about more than 40,000 autonomous systems in IPv4. However, it's less than 10,000 in IPv6. It's about, that means it's only 10% of the internet backbones are capable of providing IPv6 service. And about 90% of the backbones still cannot provide IPv6 service. Then actually that actually shows why the IPv6 traffic is still quite limited. And another thing is quite interesting is, okay, you can see the growth of the IPv6 autonomous numbers. And you can see there is a point before this day, actually there is an exponential increase of the curve of the number of IPv6 autonomous numbers. And after that date, time, actually it's linear increasing. Can you guess what's the date of this one? That's June 8th, last year, the IPv6 day. So actually before IPv6 day last year, people tried to jump into IPv6. However, after that day, people thinking, no big deal. We are not in a hurry. So IPv6 growth rate actually is a big shame for last year's IPv6 experience. We are facing this situation. We hope this year, like the IPv6 Launch, will increase the slope of this curve. We don't know. We need to see. So that's the situation. And we have been talking about IPv6 for more than 10 years. And people always talk IPv6 is a great thing. However, if IPv6 is so great, how come it is not there yet? We are talking about IPv6. We are talking about DoStack for more than 10 years. And if we go back to 10 years, actually there are only half of the IPv4 pool used. And the people try to use DoStack technology to transit from v4 to v6. However, last 10 years experience indicate DoStack is a big mistake. That's my understanding. Because chicken and egg problems. If DoStack, okay, if think everybody talk about DoStack, then you don't need DoStack. You can still use IPv4 and talk to everybody else, right? So the market economy, where you have to do things for yourself, not for somebody else. So that's the basic fact. We have to find other transition technologies. Okay, then I can share with you my own IPv6 experience. We start CERNET, China Education Research Network, back to 1994. And by that time, actually, it's quite limited network. Currently, we have about 2,000 universities connected, and the subscriber is about 20 million. However, in year 1998, we realized we cannot get enough IPv4 address for all the students in mainland China because there are about 320 million students from elementary school to graduate schools. That number actually is more than the population in the United States. We cannot get such amount of IPv4 address, so we start to work in IPv6. And by that time, 1998, we connected part of the CERNET to 6-boom IPv6 testbed. And the technology we're using is tunneling IPv6 over IPv4. And in the year 2000, we start another project, which is called NSFC-NET, Natural Science Foundation of China Network. It is a DoStack. However, the IPv6 traffic is very limited. So in the year 2004, we got another big funding from Chinese government. We tried to build a next generation internet backbone, which is called second generation CERNET, CERNET 2. And by that time, actually, we decided we will build IPv6 only backbone. And also at that time, everybody else criticized us and told us DoStack is the right way to go. However, we strongly believe IPv6 is the future, so we decide IPv6 only. And because that is IPv6 only network, so we do tunneling another way, IPv4 over IPv6. And actually, we're working in IETF software working group. We are one of the people initiate this working group, actually. However, the big breakthrough, okay, is finally in the year 2007, we figure out actually tunneling doesn't work. DoStack doesn't work. Translation is the way to go. We have to build a translator, make v4 and v6 talk. And actually, my student gave this name, IVI. The reason is, if you take a look of the Roman clock, the old clock, IV means 4, VI means 6, so IVI means v4 and v6 can talk. And currently, that's the work in Behave working group in IETF. And currently, we are working in back to software working group to do double translation. So that's our experience. And okay, as CERNET, you know, like we have 2,000 universities and about 20 million subscribers. And recently, actually, there's a big news. we are going to upgrade CERNET backbone to 100G. Okay, that upgrading will reach 8 cities like Beijing, Xi'an, Chengdu, Wuhan, Guangzhou, Nanjing, Shanghai, Shenyang, the big pops in CERNET. And that project will be finished by the end of this year. And the CERNET 2, actually, we have about 200 universities, mainly the research universities connected to CERNET 2, IPv6 only network. And currently, the IPv6 users is about 2 million, not too bad. And again, when we design CERNET 2 for protocol selection, actually we decide it's IPv6 only. That's mainly for old Chinese philosophy. If you want to achieve something, you cannot put your foot into 2 boats, right? You have to put into 1 boat. Okay, and complexity, okay. Actually, if you want to try IPv6, okay, our experience, you try to build at least for CERNET 2, we try to build a complicated network. Because, I mean, if you try to build a simple network, then whatever technology can work. So it's quite interesting for CERNET because it's a production network, so we try to build CERNET as simple as possible, as clean as possible. However, for CERNET 2, actually we try to build CERNET 2 as chaotic as possible. The reason is, okay, we try to test the equipment, so that's from multiple vendors. It's a multiple atomic system network. Also, we need to train our future internet engineers which know how to handle IPv6 in a complicated situation. And for transition strategy, that's also interesting. Okay, for CERNET, that's IPv4. And starting from 1997, actually it's self-funded. So we collect money from member universities. Also, CERNET there are more than 2,000 universities connected, so it's a congested network. And the CERNET 2, it's the governmental funding, so it's a free network. And it's also like 10G backbone, so it's high performance. And and it's like a free network. So our promotion strategies, if you want to use a high performance and free network, please port application use IPv6. And so that's the CERNET 2 promotion strategy. And the transition, I covered that already. And so you may be wondering what's the CERNET 2 applications. It's mainly video applications, a lot of video application. Also international collaborations. For example, actually this is quite interesting. That's 3 countries music show. And one of the music, the title of the music is IPv6. The reason, I mean, actually synthesize the music. The musician tried to do trace route, both V4 and V6, and mirror the jitter of the IPv6 and synthesize the music from that jitter. And frankly speaking, the music is not very nice. However, the good thing is, like, even musicians know what's IPv6, right? Another thing is, as also people mentioned, the Olympic website back to 2008. Actually, the London Olympic is coming. However, that's a big shame. For the London Olympics, there is no IPv6 support. You have to visit using IPv4. And so people criticize and told the London Olympic Committee, told them, like, even in mainland China, 2008, they can run IPv6 portals, right? However, the reply from London Olympics committee is there's a big danger for running IPv6, so they will not support IPv6 for the coming London Olympics. So actually, again, people talk about killer applications of IPv6. Originally, when we built CERNET 2, we think video is a killer application. However, like YouTube and like Youku or video site, PP Live can support video even cross nets, IPv4 net traversal technology. And later we think P2P is the killer application. However, again, net traversal can support. And the Internet of Things, well, probably, but that's the thing in the future after 5 years. So finally, we realized the intercommunication between V4 and V6 is the killer application of IPv6, right? If we build an IPv6 only network, however, the users can still access IPv4 content, then why not use IPv6, right? So that's the standard. So I can give you some idea of what's the transition technology we are using. Okay, so again, there are two backbones. CERNET, that's IPv4 backbone, and the CERNET 2, that's IPv6 only backbone. So we build a translator, IVI translator, stateless translator between CERNET and CERNET 2. So the IPv6 only servers can be accessed by the CERNET as well as the IPv4 internet. And also the IPv6 only client can access the IPv6 content as well as the IPv4 content. So that's basically the idea of translation. That's a great technology. And you may be wondering what's the traffic of CERNET, CERNET 2, and the translation. So I can give you some data. That's about 3 years data. This is the CERNET IPv4 traffic. The peak is about 170 Gbps. And you can see this is the Chinese New Year. And this is the summer vacations. And even you can see that's the National Day of Mainland China, the Golden Week, right? And the CERNET 2, that's the IPv6 traffic. It's about 60 Gbps, so it's more than 20% of the traffic. And the translated traffic currently is about 800 Mbps. So that's quite interesting, right? You can see like IPv4 traffic is almost there. The reason is we haven't get funding from government for 5 years, so the link is congested. And the CERNET 2, actually, you can see increasing. However, like last year, actually, I tried to ask our member universities, ask them, should we turn off IPv4 for a single day, just use IPv6? And nobody accept that idea, so we cannot turn off that, right? However, if we have a translator and the people can still access IPv4 internet, then actually we can turn off that, right? So that's the idea of translation. So actually, this is really the situation we are facing. The more I think, the more confused I get. There are DoStack, there are IPv6 only, there are IPv4 plus CGN or NET, and they are IVI, they are NET 6.4, they are NET 4.4, they are DoStack Lite, they are all kinds of transition technologies. It's very difficult to choose. And well, that's the technical things, right? You can see, actually, originally, they are translation-related technology. Translation is not a new idea, and they are NET-PT, stateful translation between V4 and V6. However, IETF later decided put this standard into historical status because of scalability, security issues. And there are automatic kernel technologies, and they are like 624, 6/4 Teredo, or ISATAB, and later that's 6RD and whatever things. And currently, actually, my idea, at least, is we have to use some kind of translation technology. So V4 and V6 can talk. And if we can use stateless translation technology do not use stateful technology because the same issues for NET PT. However, there's another big problem because, for example, some applications cannot run in IPv6. For example, like QQ in China and Skype, like VoIP applications. In that case, then actually you have choice. Either you use tunneling technology, or my suggestion is try to do stateless double translation. So that can help you to talk to V4 internet, even the application is not IPv6 ready. So actually, what's the good things for that is, okay, in the nice old days, they are only IPv4. And in the bright future, there are IPv6 only networks at some stage, maybe 10 or 20 years later. However, we are in this stage, we have to run two networks as the ISP. All the users have to dealing with two networks. We have to get rid of this DoStack situation, use translation technology to jump into IPv6 directly. So that's the thing. Okay, that's one of the IETF document. The thing is, okay, if you have, my advice is, if you have enough IPv4 address, actually, you're not really in a hurry, you can wait. However, like China, we do not have enough IPv4 address, then my advice is build IPv6 only network and use a translator in order to make your users talk to IPv4 internet. In that case, actually existing IPv4 users can talk to you, no problem, right? So that's the thing, actually, my suggestion. So principles of IPv4 and IPv6 transition. Okay, if you and the other side, for example, Google and YouTube, are both in IPv6, then native IPv6 end-to-end, you can use all 65K port numbers. That's the ideal case. However, if you are in IPv6, but the other side is IPv4, use single translation. Then actually you move yourself into IPv6. You can enjoy all the beauties of IPv6. However, you can still talk to the other side, the IPv4 internet, because remember there are more than 90% of content still in IPv4. However, if the application cannot support IPv6 or like FTP, the IPv4 address embedded into your application, try double translation. The beauty of double translation is at some stage, if the application can support IPv6, no problem, you can use IPv6 directly. And in some extreme case, for example, VPN, and the translation cannot really work. In that case, you can try encapsulation. So less preferred is encapsulation, then double translation, single translation idea is native IPv6 communication, and that's the right direction. And what's the end of the transition stage? Get rid of encapsulation, get rid of double translation, get rid of single translation, then we move and reach the final stage, native IPv6. So think in this way, we run out of IPv4 address. So we need to have a translation, either NET 4.4 or NET 6.4. We cannot get rid of the translation. If we use NET 4.4, then actually we back to the history 10 years ago. Some people like you interested in IPv6 will use IPv6. However, lots of people still will stay in IPv4, no transition, and there is no such global IPv6 internet. However, if the people really need IPv6 need address and try to increase the customer base, then build IPv6 only network. And eventually, those IPv6 only network will be form a new IPv6 internet. That's the way to go, right? As the original IPv4 internet, people build campus networks, then link together. And that's something called revolutions begin in the countryside, right? So, okay, currently what you may ask what I'm doing. Okay, one is called 100 campus network. So we do translation technologies and help 100 campus network to move into IPv6 only, but still keep the connectivity with IPv4 internet. Also, you may find like a state council document, and if you can read Chinese, that's really a interesting document. Okay, we in state council statement, there is saying like V4 and V6 must talk to each other. I can tell you another interesting story. Like President Hu Jintao, he is the alumni of Tsinghua University, and last year that's the 100 years of Tsinghua University anniversary. So we invited him to visit CERNET Center, and we show President Hu Jintao how good of the IPv6 new applications. And at some stage, Hu Jintao stopped us and asked us, can the existing IPv4 users access your beautiful IPv6 content? That's a smart question. So the politicians always ask this kind of question. Our technical people, I try to figure out V4 and V6 need to be talked for 10 years. However, he figured out in 1 hour. Okay, another project is called CERNET 2020. There are more than 400 schools, and we try to link them together. And the idea is build an IPv6 only network and use translator to talk to V4 and V6 directly. And actually this year is the 20th anniversary of isoc, and there is a wishing trees. So this is my post. I wish there is one internet in our globe, not two internets, IPv4 and IPv6. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Li, for introducing